Did you know there is something that changed the world, and it happened about 20 years-ish ago, and it made a huge impact on the human race and the way humans interact. And there's like one guy kind of behind it all. His name is Steve Jobs. You might know that name as the CEO of Apple, and Apple has become one of the largest companies in the whole world, and one of the most valuable companies in the whole world. And Steve Jobs helped make that happen. He died of pancreatic cancer in 2011, so a little while ago. But 4 years before he passed away, he had the opportunity to stand on a stage and introduce to the world something that would change human history forever. And so I just want us to take us a few minutes and watch that announcement that Steve Jobs made all those years ago, not too long ago. Check it out. I think about him a lot. Every time I reach into my phone pocket and I pull out that device, that's the guy behind having a device like that in every person's hand across the entire world. And I wonder, he passed away in 2011. He didn't even know a fraction of the way that what he just invented would change human history. And so I think about him, this guy that changed human history, the world as we know it. Where was he with God? Did he have a relationship with God? What was his faith like? I mean, he impacted the world in such an amazing way. What was it like? And Josh has something for me, right? Would you stay here for 1 second? When Steve Jobs was about Josh's age, a little bit older, not too much older, but when he was Josh's age, he brought this magazine to his pastor one day at church. Now, I don't think it's this exact magazine. That would be cool. But this magazine, the 1968 edition of Life magazine. And Steve brought it to his pastor, and he asked the pastor this question. He said, "Does God know about what this and what is going to happen to those children?" And the pastor responded, "Steve, Josh, I know you don't understand, but yes, God knows about that." And that was the last day Steve Jobs ever stepped foot into a church. So Josh, let's give Josh a hand for giving me a help. Thank you. You go have a seat. And that's not going to happen to Josh, right? But that was Steve Jobs' last time at church. He walked away from church and he walked away from God. He brought this to his pastor. He said those words. The pastor gave him his answer. And that was the end of that. This is the official story as written in a biography about Steve Jobs. It says this: Steve's parents were not fervent about their faith, but wanted him to have a religious upbringing, so they took him to the Lutheran church most Sundays. That came to an end when he was 13. In July 1968, Life magazine published a shocking cover showing a pair of starving children in Biafra. Jobs took it to Sunday school and confronted the church's pastor. "Does God know about this and what's going to happen to those children?" The pastor answered, "Steve, I know you don't understand, but yes, God knows about that." And Jobs announced that he didn't want to have anything to do with worshiping such a God, and he never went back to church. And this personal story from a man that we all know and have been impacted by, who changed the world, has always been a huge crossroads idea in my life. Because to my knowledge, nobody has ever brought me a magazine and because of my answer, walked away from church and walked away from God. They haven't done that, praise God. But they have brought me all sorts of other things that could be metaphorically understood as Steve Jobs' magazine. And I do my best to point them to Jesus, or let's see what the Bible has to say about it. And they turn around, they walk out the door, and not only do they walk away from church, but they walk away from God because of a magazine or because of a health report that has happened, because of a concern of some kind, like, hey, the state of the world or the state of politics, or maybe it's the way the church works, or maybe it's what the church stands for. Maybe people have brought a death of a loved one. Does God know about this? And if so, why does he let that happen? Maybe it's they bring being fired from their job, or I just was in this accident, or the time when he left me or she left me. And we bring our magazines that make us doubt God, that make us doubt his goodness. We make us doubt God's power. God, do you know about this? And if you do, why don't you do anything about it? And either you don't care or you're not powerful and you can't do anything. And this, as you might know, is probably one of the most common questions that people have about Christianity. One of the most common objections to being a Christian. In our first step group after the service, I have heard hundreds of questions, and almost all of them revolve around something like this idea. God, where were you when all this bad stuff happened in my life? Why are you letting it happen? And so here's how my heart responds to this. I say, some people face these questions and turn from God, like Steve Jobs, and others face the same exact questions, if not worse. I mean, you're probably looking at this like, really, this? Out of all the stuff that we deal with in today's world? But it strengthens their faith in God. And I wonder, what makes the difference? And not only like theoretically what makes the difference, but I want to know what makes the difference for you. What makes the difference for you? And to answer this question, as we do any question, we're going to turn to the Bible, to the Word of God, to see what God has to say about this type of thing, because we believe the Bible is the most helpful, most relevant book for today. And I want to draw our attention to Luke chapter 8. And in Luke chapter 8, we come in contact with a man who is a religious man that brings his metaphorical magazine to God, to Jesus, and he asks him the question, and he doesn't get the answer that he thought he was going to get. And maybe this is you. You're here at church today, you're watching online today, and you're here because a family member said, hey, we're going to church today, you're coming with me. And you're like, really, I am? And you're like, yep, okay, here I am. Maybe you're watching online. This is what we do. So here, you're staying over at our house. It's time to put the church on the TV. You're watching today. Or maybe it's like, hey, it's a Sunday morning. People go to church sometimes, and I just kind of walked in the doors, and here I am today. You know, we come and we bring our magazines with us, just like this man Jairus did. And so in Luke chapter 8, we read about this man. And it says this, Luke, who researched all of this and wrote it down, events that actually happened. Then a man came named Jairus, a leader of the local synagogue, and came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come home with him. His only daughter, who was about 12 years old, was dying. He had a major concern about the health of his children. That's a valid concern, right? God, where are you? She doesn't deserve this. She's 12. Why is she gonna die? She didn't do anything. That's a magazine-worthy situation. And as this man, this very religious man, brings this question to Jesus, he gets much worse news. Not only did the guy who was supposed to answer his question kind of brush him off, kind of not answer him or help him right away, he got distracted. Not only did that happen, while there was this delay, news comes that the child who was sick and going to die was dead. This is how Luke writes it. As Jesus went with him, he was surrounded by the crowds. Okay, I'll go, I'll answer. But a woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding, and she could find no cure. And coming up behind Jesus, she touched the fringe of his robe. It's like, I thought we were talking about the guy and his daughter, and now this woman's in the picture. And while he was still speaking to her, what about my situation? What about what I'm doing? What about my questions, my doubts? A messenger arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue, and he told him, your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now. You know, the pastor in Steve Jobs' story doesn't give the answer that Steve would have liked. And Jesus here in this story doesn't seem to be helpful at all, doesn't seem to even be caring for this man, this girl, this 12-year-old girl. He didn't do anything about it, and kind of time went by, and now she's dead. And that's obviously really terrible news. And I just wonder, did Jairus say, hey, Jesus, you helped this random lady that touched you, but you wouldn't help me? God, why did you get distracted? Why did it seem like you weren't there? Are you good? Are you powerful? And when Jesus heard what Jairus must have been thinking, when he had heard what had happened, he said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just have faith and she will be healed. What? It's that easy, just have faith. Yeah, I know she's dead. Yeah, I know I wasn't paying attention. I got distracted. But just have faith and it'll be okay. God, if it was that easy, everyone would do it. But for some reason, Jairus does it. And he still allows Jesus to come with him to his house. And Jesus does heal her. Jesus does show he is powerful, he is loving, he is able, he is willing. Look how Luke writes it. When they arrived at the house, Jesus wouldn't let anyone go in with him except Peter, James, and John, and the little girl's father and mother. The house was filled with people weeping and wailing, but he said, stop the weeping. She isn't dead, she's only asleep. But the crowd laughed at him because they all knew she had died. And then Jesus took her by the hand and said in a loud voice, my child, get up. And at that moment, her life returned and she immediately stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. I love that. This girl was sleeping. She's hungry. She needs some cereal. Go get it. Her parents were overwhelmed, but Jesus insisted that they not tell anyone what had happened. And I just think, like, my heart breaks for this dad who comes to God, brings his biggest cares and worries and brings it to Jesus, brings it to the one who he thinks could do something about it. And Jesus, like, blows him off for a little while. Wait, we know how the story ends. It ends good. Jairus leans in and doesn't lose faith. But I just imagine in that moment, he could have said so many things. He could have believed so many things. I'm talking to Jesus, but he doesn't hear me. I'm talking to Jesus, but he doesn't care about my family. I'm talking to Jesus, but he doesn't care about the things going on in this world. God seems so distant. Jairus could have given up. He could have left God. He could have stopped trying. He could have stopped believing. But somehow, for some reason, he embraced the woman who was a distraction to this whole situation. And for some reason, this whole scenario, this whole delay wasn't an opportunity for Jairus to lose faith. It was an opportunity to build his faith. Because when the woman touched Jesus, he saw this with his own eyes. Immediately, the bleeding stopped. Now, the bleeding was something this woman had been dealing with. It caused her to not be able to worship God in the Jewish culture. It was a big deal, and it stopped. God healed her. She was bleeding, Luke tells us, for 12 years. That is not a coincidence, my friends, is it? That Jairus' daughter was 12 years old? If Jesus could heal her of something 12 years long, Jesus could also heal my daughter, or do something even more, who's 12 years old. If God can do it for her, God can do it for me as well. Look what happens. Who touched me, Jesus asked. Everyone denied it, and Peter said, Master, this whole crowd is pressing up against you. But Jesus said, someone deliberately touched me, for I felt healing power go out from me. When the woman realized that she could not stay hidden, she began to tremble and fell at her knees in front of him. The whole crowd heard her explain why she had touched him and that she had been immediately healed. Daughter, he said to her, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Jairus continued to pursue God in the middle of seemingly a delay. Right? Would you let my child get sick? Why would you let my child die? You know, the one thing after another. There's reason after reason of, well, God, I'm going to run from you because you don't care about me. God, you're not helping me. God, you're not showing up. God, you're not doing this. God, you're not doing what I ask you to do. But he doesn't do that, does he? He sees all of this distraction, all of this delay, and he sees someone else's daughter healed. And so I wonder, some people face the same questions. It's the same situation. It's the same scenario, and some people run from God. But others face the very same situation, the same question, the same magazine, the same dilemma, the same doubt, and it strengthens their faith in God. So what makes the difference? And again, I care about this. What makes the difference for you? There have been hundreds of thousands of people that have made this decision, maybe millions of people that have made this decision, where they see the two kids on the front of the magazine and they don't walk away from God because of it like Steve Jobs did. They see these two kids on the front of the magazine, and it tells them to engage with God deeper. The same scenario, the same thing, a completely different reaction, response, choice. And this brings to mind another Steve. We talked about Steve Jobs. The second Steve in our message today, his name is Steve Saint. He is the son of a missionary named Nate Saint, and also a guy named Jim Elliot and a few other people. They were young men, not too much older than Steve Jobs when he brought this magazine to their pastor. These young guys that were in Bible college that heard about these children, not this children exactly, but people in Ecuador specifically. And they learned about these children in Ecuador, this family in Ecuador, this tribe of people, this people group in Ecuador, in the jungles of Ecuador. And they heard not just about their malnutrition and their starvation, but they heard about how evil these people were. How violent even they were. They were savages. And the statistics showed, or I don't know how they figured this out, but they eventually learned that over 60% of this people group in Ecuador died because of murder. Like if you were alive, you were about to die real soon because they were going to kill you. They killed everyone who was not a part of their people group. They were completely isolated. If any foreigners came in, they killed them. And then, of course, there was a lot of other killing involved as well. And so, you could ask that question. These guys, Jim Elliot, Nate Saint, the missionaries, they could have said, why would God allow these people to do this on his earth? And cause him to doubt God, run from God, turn from God. God, why are you allowing such evil, such horrible atrocity to happen? But they didn't do that. They didn't turn from God and walk out the door, never to come back. No, they used that knowledge as an opportunity for them to respond and say, I need to do something about this. With God's power, of course. If you do it by yourself, that's going to be bad. And so what do? These young guys hear about these people that are going to kill them if they show up to their little tribe in Ecuador. And they go and say, we got to bring the good news of the gospel to these people. And they show up and start building a relationship with them. Through airplanes and food, they start to build some friendships until all the men, there's about 5 guys, I think, in that missionary group, they were all murdered, speared to death by this tribe. And one of the sons, the wives, the kids were all kind of a part of this missionary community. The sons, Steve Saint, and the wives, after their husbands had been murdered by these people, made a decision to go back to those people that killed their husbands, killed their dad, and to try again to bring the good news of Jesus to this tribe. And guess what? They were successful. And most of those people, I don't know the most recent history, but most of those people came to believe in Jesus because these people saw the bad situation and did not run from God. It caused something within them to dive even deeper into their relationship with God and the mission with God. And isn't there something inside of us that kind of wells up that's like, that's incredible. Like, that's beyond human explanation. There's something in that. There's little goosebumps there, maybe. And I think there is. There's a spiritual power in that story, retelling that story, thinking about that story of running towards the hurting, not running from it. And I believe that is because it reflects God's heart for you. Because when you bring your newspaper to God, He doesn't run away from you. He draws closer to you. When you bring your doubts and your questions, when you bring your disappointments, when you bring your God, where were you when? God, are you good? God, are you there? God shows up in a more powerful way in your life and loves you more because of it, not less. Now you show him something like this, it breaks his heart, absolutely. You bring your sin to him, some bad decisions you've made in your life, and God, how could you ever? And it makes him cry. You bring a death of a loved one. God, where were you when? And it makes him weep. But whatever you bring to him, whatever's kind of in between you and God, it doesn't cause him to push you away. Figure your life out, then come to me. No, it causes him to love you more, to draw closer to you, to be nearer to you, not further away, to be closer, not distant. And this Christmas time, we get to celebrate this fact that God did everything he could possibly do to come as close as he possibly could to the human race that he had created. He became one of us. God gave his one and only son, Jesus. He gave himself. He ran toward the hurting, the broken. He did not run away from you. This is what we read. You might be familiar with these words in John 3:16. For this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only son so that everyone, that includes you, who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. This is incredible love. A love that doesn't abandon you, a love that wants to serve you, a love that gives of himself, and even to the point of death, of laying his life down so that you could have life. He showed up on the edge of the tribe knowing he was going to be killed and murdered because we're a violent people. And he did it anyway because he loved you and wanted to bring you life. And so in memory of those missionaries that went to Ecuador, who gave their life to bring the good news of the gospel to those people, there's one more Steve in our message today. We got Steve Jobs, we got Steve Saint, and now we got Stephen Curtis Chapman. He was a Christian music writer who wrote a song, and he focused on this idea of laying your life down for a friend and how that reflects God's love for you. Would you check out the words to this song? My friends, the magazine does not have to keep you from God. This very thing can be the very thing that causes you to dive deeper into your relationship with God and propel you on mission with him. God doesn't see your stuff and run away. He came and literally gave everything he possibly could. He laid down his life because he loves you that much. And so today, if you came in bringing your magazine with all your reasons why you can't follow God, you don't care about God, you really don't have a relationship with God, and I'm never trusting in a God like that. My friends, this is your chance, your opportunity to say, you know what? I'm choosing a different path today. I'm making a different decision today. It doesn't change the magazine, but there's a God who came because of this and gave his life for this, for you, so that you could have a right relationship with God forever. And if you're making that decision today, you say, and I've let the magazine get in the way for too long, and today I'm coming to Jesus. Would you just wave at me, say, hey, that's me. That's me. Praise the Lord. But hey, Christian, have you let the magazine get in the way of your relationship with God? Have you had one foot in and one foot out? You're looking for all sorts of reasons to leave and to forget this. Today, would you make the decision? No, I'm gonna lean in. I'm gonna do something about this. This isn't breaking my faith apart. This is strengthening my faith because my God came to do something about this, and he wants to use me to make a difference in these people's lives. And if that's you today, would you be bold? I give bold invitation. You say, I had a foot out and a foot in, but today, hey, I'm gonna come both feet in. Would you just stand up and be like, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. I'm staying right here. Well, hey, let's all stand up this morning and let's thank God for who he's called us to be, for the power that he gives us to engage a world like this, to love a world like this, because he has done it all for us.